everything we have talked about so far, which is this, that is BPM platform with all the optional components. You use them when you want. You don't use them when you don't want. Are generic. I don't mean bad. I mean independent of a given vertical. It is the same for telecom, for financial services, for logistics, for manufacturing, healthcare, on and on. What does that tell you? It tells you, well, you have to do more work than necessary to build your solution. That is what generic, in a sense, means. Because if you are in logistics or manufacturing, you know that, or telecom, you know that there are certain things you always do. If you are in, for example, telecom, you need CRM. Most probably you are using Siebel. Okay, you need inventory management. Most probably you use Granite. Okay? If you are manufacturing, you don't know about Siebel and Granite. You have a bunch of other systems, which you are gonna need to utilize from one process after the other. In one case, you have customer. In another case, you have a cable. In the third case, you have patient. In the fourth case, you have a truck. These are business objects. And if you are in logistics, truck is in cargo, is in every process you have. If you are in healthcare, patient is in every process you have. You don't want to define them many, many times, right? Which means there is really a specialization of this based on vertical, which we call solution accelerators. That is, if you are in logistics, you buy this, and you define those common things you are going to use from one process to the next only once, and you build one of these accelerators for yourself. Or if we have one, maybe you get it from us, or if our partners have one, you get it from our partner. Which means it further reduces your time and effort to build these business solutions. So remember we talked about usage patterns. We talked about document-centric. We talked about decision-centric. And of course, you know, human-centric and system-centric and case-centric. These are 7 usage patterns that we have recognized among our customers over the years. In fact, maybe I can tell you a little short story. Okay? I have personally been doing BPM for 15 years. And 4 years ago, we posed a very simple question. Why is that some of our customers deploy our product in 3 weeks very successfully, they are very happy, and some take 7 months, they are frustrated, they think they spend more money, they think they spend more time, they think we lied to them, and all of those? Well, the simple answer, of course, was, well, the first company is a smarter company. People know to manage the project. They are just better. Well, what about in the same company, one project become very successful in 3-4 weeks, and the other one struggles after 3-4 months? Well, after some digging in and hard discussion with some of our customers, it became obvious that our product supported certain usage patterns better than others. And the lucky ones had those usage patterns. Those who spend a lot of time and time had a different usage pattern. For example, if the process was human-centric, bang, 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 deploy, great, everything is fine. If it was event-centric, because we didn't have event processing, or Decision-centric, because we didn't have rule system, they had to struggle. All right. So very, very important. And of course, you don't want to have 7 different BPM. You want to have one enterprise BPM, but be able to support different usage cases. Furthermore, if you have a human-centric, which have no document, you don't care for document management. But in the one that is document-centric, of course, you want to have document management. That is why those optional components are so important. So these are examples of our customers. Not all of them use BPM today.
So, the best practices of what we've always talked about is, get all your participants to, I think we had a question up during our break. I think it's best, especially if you're going to adopt a technology, is to do a brown bag lunch. Talk about, hey, we're going to be taking on a new piece of technology or a new business initiative, and we'd like to get your feedback and initiative. And, somehow, I think buying someone lunch, personally, I like to buy people a glass of wine, but it goes a long way, and it could really help people to get involved, be engaged, and share with you all the challenges that they're going through. Get acceptance from all levels, not only from the executive levels, but all the way from the end user levels. Once you have acceptance and buy-in, and they get to participate, it's going to help your program move much smoother. Standardize on tools and methodologies and documentation. So utilizing technology, methodologies, best practices, come up with a standard that will get addressed within all your groups. Get everyone to adopt it. And then identify your metrics. And I think we did some of this in the exercise. We really defined the success factors, but let's make them tangible success factors. And how do I know if I've actually met them? And that's pretty similar to as you define the desired state. Figure out how you can build your processes so that components can be reusable. Reusability is huge. It's going to help you in your development cycles to move faster and deploy projects faster. Involve end users, to do interviews. I think we just talked about that. And then align success factor with processes and determine process improvement. So in this next phase of the exercise, I think it really talks about kind of define a process model. And I know this is going to be using a little bit of creativity. We're going to have the business person tell you what the process looks like right now. And hopefully the business person will say, we got a lot of problems. And then through it, we're going to work on an exercise together to define what should the desired state be. All right? So who's the business person in each group? Raise your hand. All right. Good. So now you got to put on your creativity hat and think about a problematic process. All right.
Now, we're going to move into this idea of synergies between business rules management and business process management. And I'm going to hit a couple slides pretty fast so that Jeff has some time to actually show you a demo. So, quick idea around a customer example. This is also in the insurance space, actually a customer that is based out of the Nordics. Now, it's a pretty small region, but what this insurance company decided was they wanted to be the benchmark for claims efficiency. They wanted to be able to process claims better than any other company in the world and be able to point to their excellence in this. You see over here it says 3 out of 5 private claims are settled in the same day they're received. Now, they had a couple of issues. One was that they're operating in a bunch of different countries which have different regulations. It's kind of similar to what can I do in New Jersey versus what can I do in Florida. They have the same thing only on a country-by-country basis. They want to be able to drive consistency in their claims decisions whenever possible, but when they have to deal with specific country-specific regulations, they want to also be able to make sure that those are being handled. So that's one of the things they were looking at. Secondly, they wanted to improve the overall claims management. So it takes both pieces. Both, how do I deal with this claim as it travels through all the various aspects of managing that claim, as well as how do I make the right decisions at the right points so that if I can just go approve this claim, send it all the way to the last step for accounts payable to take care of it, I want to be able to do that. If I can't do that, then I want to have people brought involved who are the right people, which is the right type of claim process to involve. So they needed this kind of combination of business process management and business rules management. And at the same time, they wanted their employees to be as productive as possible, right? So I want my people to be involved where they add value. It's similar to what I was saying about developers and business users. I want my claims specialists to be involved where there's true value add in what they're doing. I know in certain cases that I don't need them to rubber stamp and approve, well then I want to move that directly to the following step. So from a business rules management standpoint, you see here some of the things: submission validation, automation for liability and compensation calculations, determining whether there can be straight-through processing, managing the variation of those rules on a country-by-country basis, and accelerating the implementation of those changes. Now, this kind of brings us to the point of what is the difference between business process management and business rules management? Let me go here. Business process management is all about defining and orchestrating this long-running process, which may include a number of different steps, integrations with different systems. People may need to be involved at certain points, but it's about orchestrating that long-running end-to-end process. Rules management is about defining and executing decision points specifically within a process or an application. Now, some people might say, okay, well, why can't I just do all of that in process management? Many business process management offerings have the ability to deal with rules. But our fundamental argument is that you have much more flexibility in separating out the decision points from the orchestration of the long-running process. And some of those reasons are because of the complexity of business rules. Trying to deal with those complexities in a set of technologies that aren't specifically designed to deal with that particular problem. And because business rules management's focus is around how do I define, execute, and govern those business rules that evolve frequently and change over time and get more complex and have these complexities associated with them, makes a business rules management system uniquely suited to deal with that part of the equation. Another reason is because the reuse. So I can make a rule in one place, and I can have it affect multiple processes that may utilize that rule, as well as other applications may need it. So the idea of reuse and the kind of change once effect in many places is quite a powerful argument. Now, this is going to be our way of kind of segueing into what Jeff is going to show you. So here again, we're going to have a very simplified idea of a process around quoting. So if we went back to that idea of the website where Jeff was getting the price, there's a little button up at the top that said buy now, right? So I click buy now, that's going to initiate some kind of a process. It's right here, right? This bubble right here that says quote, there may be a whole set of things that need to happen once from there. We're not showing that because we've kind of simplified down to this key aspects of how do I assess the eligibility, what's the right price, and these are very decision-specific components that business rules management system is helping with. Now, whenever possible, I want to be able to go around these outside paths. These are the straight-through processing paths. The business rules management system helps you to maximize that. So actually, this is the better. The lower one, you're maximizing this. The upper one, because you can't have the same level of precision when the decision logic is embedded in the process model, you're going to have more cases running through the middle path. You're going to get less precise pricing at that step than you are where you bring the business rules management system in, and now you're able to do more straight-through processing and have finer grained pricing. So, but again, each one has its specific purpose and its area of specialty that it really brings agility to the organization and brings flexibility to the overall set of systems that you have. So at this point, let's talk about this idea of how would you actually incorporate business rules management and business process management together so that whenever I want to do this path, I can. When I need to bring people in and I need to hand it off to a person, I can do that too. Jeff, go ahead, take it away.
So what I'll be doing is showing you guys, again, a similar interface as you guys just saw before. However, this time I have some WebSphere process BPM technology embedded in the same IDE. So this is a familiar use case for you guys. We have a rule that talks about the number of accidents. Have more than 2 accidents, we're going to mark this user ineligible and say they're not eligible in the flow that Brett was just mentioning before. So this is a regular business rule. We also have a decision table similar to what we had before, a little bit different this time. Female and male, various age ranges in the middle. Also state of residence. Here, what we're going to do is we have a few rules around, well, if they're under 16, females ineligible. If they're between 16 and 21, and in California, we need to go down that manual branch. There's extra stuff we need to have a human person look at it because California is complicated. Other states, we'll just straight through process them. Yes, they're approved, no problem. Over 21, same thing. Males, okay, a different 18 years rather than 16 years. We think males are a little more risky. California, again, still the manual process here. That's important, and over 21 else. We have a few business rules that are making this decision around eligibility. Is this person eligible to get this coverage? And if they're ineligible, we notify them. If they're eligible, they get the quote and it goes straight through. The one case where we have manual, or two cases where we have manual, that's where the business process can certainly take over and start to involve human tasks and longer running processes. So set the stage there. We have the rules. This is now deployed onto my server. Now I want to show you guys a little bit about what it means to talk about BPM. I'm not at all an expert. I will admit that. But here I'm going to take you through what I can do here, and the IDE is going to be the same. That's one of the nice things about the integrations we have with some of the WebSphere products. So all I do is click on this button here to change my perspective from the rule perspective to what I'm going to term as the business integration or BPM perspective. I can come into my assembly diagram, which if anyone knows BPMN, etc., you're going to see some of that here when I get through this. So now I've switched roles. I'm no longer a rule developer. However, I haven't changed anything application-wise. It's very integrated. I'm now a process developer. Okay? So one of the integrations I want to show you very quickly is the ability to create what we call an SCA component from a rule app. This is integration, a synergy that was brought about with the iLog and IBM engineers working together. So what I can do is I have my rule app. Again, it's deployed. It's ready to go. And I can set up an SCA component. You guys know that. It's a term for a reusable service that can be used in the decision. So in the eligibility process Brett had on the screen, it's the eligibility node or the price node. Okay? So what I do is I import the iLog rules. It tells me the various rule sets or services that I have available to me. So I might choose the eligibility service. It tells me the inputs and the outputs, which I'm going to need to use in my process to give the rule set its information for input, and also take back the response from the rule decision service, and then use it in some way in my process. I'm going to go ahead and set, just an external dependency, so I have my model set up with all my objects. I might give it a package and a name. I might add execution trace, also another integration. So the process server that we're using for this, the WebSphere process server, has CEI events, and I can also put the rules and its events emitted into the same process automation event framework so that everything is all at once. Every step of my process is logged. Every step of the rule execution is logged throughout and in the same exact database. So that's a nice integration as well. And I can choose an invocation method. So I've done this briefly. All this does is simply create a new interface in my project, auto quote decision service interface, and it creates the Java implementation out of the box, so it actually creates all the resources necessary for this process to say, okay, I have my rule set, I know where it's deployed, I know the inputs and outputs of that rule set, so let me map that to my process variables, execute it on the rule server, bring back the response. That gets added here and wired into my service, and it's ready to go. So from a BPM standpoint, someone that's using the process, all I need to do is drag and drop that in, and I'm ready to execute my decision service. I don't have to worry about how the rules work. The decoupling is important because then your rule authors can go change your rules, and the process doesn't have to change necessarily. And then we'll see that here when I show that to you. So let's look at the process. This process is almost exactly the same as what Brett was showing earlier. Screen a little bigger so you guys can see it. We start our process, we receive some information, we then pass that information to an eligibility service. So if I click here and come up to my properties, I can see that this is mapped to the interface that was created from that integration, the SCA component, mapped directly to that rule set, and I have the operation set to the eligibility operation, so I know I'm going to execute the eligibility rule set. In addition, I've mapped some parameters that are coming into my process directly to the parameters that are going into the rule set, as well as the outputs from the rule set back into my process variable. So all pretty easy to do. A lot of it's done automatically for me. Then I take the response that came from that check eligibility step, and I go into a choice block in my process. Yes, if they're eligible, then display a confirmation. No, if they're not eligible, we'll also display a rejection notice. Otherwise, we have this manual step in the middle that I may implement with a number of human tasks. It may move the quote through a manual process, move documents and information between databases. This step in here, obviously, I'm not focusing on it. This is where BPM really is going to come in and thrive, because that's the important part of human tasks in BPM.
So the question was, can you, inside of the RMS, can you run testing? Can you set up a control group? Can you randomize? Do all of this? Yes, you can. So what we do is we start with the analysis piece, writes the rules, affects the pricing and sort. We collect data, measure profitability, and then use that data and insight to just continuously work through the cycle. Largely, most of our modeling is done in Ssas, queries out of Oracle, some reporting out of MicroStrategy. Generally, I put them in that order for a reason. Our analysts work in that order. They rely mostly on the advanced predictive modeling software inside of Ssas. I know you can hook in predictive modeling output PML files into rules. We don't do that. We handle everything outside. Complication, cost, it gets a little unpredictable. I think it would slow us down a little bit because it would involve more people in this. So, quick recap. Business questions. What's the right price? How do we order options? Should everyone see everything? How do we make the decisions in a cost-effective way? On the technical side, how do we process 50 million plus decisions a day? Not exactly straightforward. And how do we speed up time to market and minimize site risk? Those things are constantly at odds in our organization. It's always, you can build something fast and then go clean it up later. But then you're risking strange display or site outages or things like that. So we got to this place. We actually got here. And we said, these are complicated. And the time to market things are actually really hard. So what we used to do is we used to have, just like the decision table that was up, we used to have a table inside of Oracle that we would query we would send a parameterized query to and pull out, in the insurance example, it was like the age and the marital status and whether they were a graduate or not, and we would apply this row and that would be it. Anytime we wanted to add a dimension, anytime we wanted to add anything, you get an exponential increase in the size of the table. Oracle scales their cost exponentially, so it gets much more expensive. Your site becomes less stable, and it takes a couple months of developer time, requirements, lots of organizational effort to get all this stuff done. Not only that, but we said, hey, this pricing thing is actually really hard. What you see is you see that this impacts this, what things you show in what order matter. How customers choose among things can be different by city, can be different between star ratings. Neighborhoods matter. Well, we have 600 markets. Each market has, say, 5 neighborhoods. You're talking about 3,000 to 5,000 neighborhoods. How do you handle something? If you want to introduce a dimension with a cardinality of 5,000 and you don't know what it does, you don't know how customers react to it, you don't know how much more customers are willing to pay to stay in Union Square versus Cushman Square. How do you handle all of this, and how do you go through it not on a 3-month cycle? How do you do it on a 3-day cycle? So all of these things, the cost, the complexity, the acknowledgement that we really don't know the answer to a lot of these things, led us to evaluating rules vendors and eventually selecting iLog. Most of this. Basically, this picture just shows that we have our business users and developers are essentially the same group for us. I know a lot of organizations are big, and this is challenging. For us, it works because we're small. It's insanely hard for me to recruit people on my team. It's really, really hard to find the right person that can do the math, translate the math into English, and then figure out how to apply it. Oh, and then before or wrapped around all of this, figure out if it matters. And then for those people to be able to work in technical environments, it's really challenging. But we've been doing it for 6 years now. Haven't had our benefits have far, far outweighed our costs. Deployment, we had 2 people on the business side, 3 people on the engineering side. We did everything in 6 months. So our deployment was all about keeping everything exactly the same for the customer and just swapping out the entire back end. We did our air product first, then we later did hotel, car, and package all together. We did that 2 months later, so not much time to make any changes. It was more just mitigating risk, basically, on the business side. 2 weeks of professional services time, and obviously a project like this where you're swapping out so much involves everyone else to a small degree, just to make sure that compliance stuff works and that we have our servers set up and secure.